So the handle with the button and the grip area here for thumb and hand is done. What we did not really tackle yet is actually the separation between the housing and then the cylinder the air flows through. You see there's this nice cut. So there are two ways actually how we can build this. We can, as I showed you, we can sculpt it, or we could also use actually the way how we will do it in Fusion later. We can use surfacing tools to trim the individual shapes. And I would like to show you how we would do it in this case. So what we need actually is one time this body, and then I need also a smaller version for the thing that's inside. And what this requires, I will Shift D, make a copy and move it to somewhere there. This will require actually that I adjust these surfaces here and make them a little bit bigger. You might ask yourself, well, why do you do that? Well, I have to shrink this one. So let's go to displays, and oh, haha, the scale isn't set. So scale, oh, it's big. And let's say maybe minus 0.01. Okay, this is too much. Maybe 0.7. Okay. Alt D, let's make a copy as a clone, escape, and then we delete this one. And now we can basically see the original, and we have the offset one. I also, as you can see, I continued using the quad ball geometry because this is very lightweight, perfect for sculpting, and everything, all other commands will work better. And I know this, when we transfer it into Fusion, will work really well. Okay, so we have these parts done. So how do we now do the intersection? So what we will do is first cursor at the selected, so it's centered. Shift A, make a plane. In edit mode, we can scale this plane down, rotate it, and then in object mode, we can move it over to where it has to be. Maybe make this a little bit bigger, and this should be a nice S shape or something like that. So we need to loop cut at least. No, I think we need actually probably 2 loop cuts. 0 and enter. And those, maybe we can move back, add a sub-D modifier. Let's select these points here without the edges in between. Shift E and 1. Let's increase it. And now we have an arc. But the arc here has to go flat again. So there and there I can add a loop cut. And then from the side you see I pull this in. Let me switch to the vertex selection, and I projected the cage onto the surface. So now I can go ahead and, for example, sculpt this a little bit more into the dimensions I want. Maybe a little bit further out, those maybe a little bit inwards, maybe a little bit more like this. Okay, but all those just maintain, be the same as an X. AA, spacebar, shade smooth, and we will set this to wire so I can see through it, and sub-D optimal display so I see less of all that stuff. So let's take a look at the quality of our curves. Do we have nice transitions? Yeah, now let's say for the moment this is fine. Okay, so how do I now continue? Well, let's hide this one for the moment and let's work with the outer body. Let's go to modifier and then where is it? Boolean. And I will actually select this part here, Shift E1 to crease it, and F fill it. So it's a solid now. And we know the software works great with solids. Let's do the trim. Bang. So there it's trimmed. Okay. Then we can press Alt H. So we are running into a little issue here because we're displacing and then subding. No, wait, we are subding then displacing. I want actually displace and then subd. Yeah, this is actually better. Okay. So now here, let's see what we can do. Boolean with this surface, and oh, it cuts the same way. Difference. Okay, we have the difference if we want to, but technically speaking we don't even really need to make this cut because we use this simply as a representation. You see how this actually is inside and sticks out. So honestly, we only need to trim this outer part. That's fine. Again, this is just a concept model. Let's say from Blender we want later to create this CNC model out of foam, which we easily can do. Then to this trimmed one, we will simply add via union this volume. So I hit the other part, so you can see now kind of like the result of this one. There. Perfect. Works pretty great. Okay. So a little bit of cleaning stuff up and arranging areas. So this one we, for example, call top outside. Let's say this is actually top inside. And I will make this one, I'll move this one onto a different layer so it's gone. Let's show the handle where it is. See now, it's pretty tight. Also in their design it's pretty tight. Let's take a look at the top. Does this look nice? No, it looks not very good. So what can we change here? So what happens if maybe these points I move a little bit to there? Let's say even this way. I see this bends better and this bends better. So you see what we actually might not necessarily need is, or do we need this? Yeah, actually they did a cut even a little bit more different. So there and there. So that's a very simplistic way. So we can maybe try to see how we can sculpt this a little bit more. Maybe this we push out more. And you see, there it is. So this surface here has to be more at an angle. The more it is horizontal, well, it turns into a flat line seen from the side. And the more this is actually at an angle, and you see this will look like a nice arc. Simple trick. So that means in Fusion later we can simply create a spline or a surface and recreate the trimming exactly the same way. So a little bit of cleanup. Did they change the orientation? No. Okay, let's scale those together. Maybe those a little bit together. Yeah. And there we are. Cool. Okay. So Let's maybe move everything a little bit to the right. You saw that flipping there. That's basically a miscalculation. Unfortunately, right now edges are overlapping between the two polygon models, so the solver has a problem. Just adjust it a tick more and then it all will work. Okay, this is only a problem with the polygonal system. In Fusion we will not have that issue. Cool. Okay, so top view, this one we can call top trim. It's maybe top wave, so it makes sense. I can put this onto a different layer. Okay, let's take a look. Here is the handle. So to this one we will add another Boolean modifier, union, and for example say handle. There, now we added the handle to the model. Okay, now the question is, do we add the button to this design or do we add the button to here? Doesn't really matter much. Button I will actually add to here, so I have a nice assembly of all the parts I will add here. So button there. Perfect. Pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. So now we pretty closely replicated the proportions, the concept model. Obviously what we cannot solve elegantly here is the transition between the handle and the top body, because we have to create a blend surface between two different objects. That is unfortunately very, very complicated, to nearly impossible actually with polygons, because we have to sculpt the transition. We can't really calculate the transition. We can only calculate how one surface cuts, for example, another surface, or how it joins. So these basic calculations we can do, but this is just a detail later to fix anyway. The transition is because it's called secondary surface. Everything you see here right now is actually primary surface. So this really describes the proportions of your body. The transition, and that's then just a detail how the handle to the top part is blended. So the basic proportions are done. The handle, the top part, the button, but the element we did not do yet is actually this. At the first look, this all feels like perfect circular arrays. So 2 mm, 3 mm, or 3, 4, and 5.5 mm circular arrays. But then we can see down here things change. So they're also custom a little bit, custom changed. So, and I'm going to show you now how we can quickly create such structures without actually using the array tool you know in Blender or Fusion. We will use a different method, more an instance approach. Okay, so the way how this works, we will create a face or a ring with the amount of points we want, and then we will say at each point position a circle or cylinder. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's start this. So 3 mm. So my 3D cursor, I will position roughly somewhere there, and then I will, along the z-axis, set this to 0, maybe minus 20 centimeters. Okay, maybe 19. Fine. Good. Let's create a plane. And in edit mode, this plane I scale down and then I rotate it so that actually it looks this way onto my object. In object mode, now I will add another cylinder and press T, and I would like to set this to, let's say, 8. Okay. this should be 3 millimeters and maybe 2 centimeters. Okay, good. Something like this. That's fine. And the reason why I selected 8 for the points, when we later turn this into a nice cylinder via using T-splines, we get nice and crisp edges and a pretty close cylindrical representation. So that's the reason why I don't work with a square, and I don't really need a cylinder with 32 points. So here 8 points is sufficient. Okay, so how does the instancing now work? So I wanted this cylinder to be positioned at each of these points. It's pretty simple. First select the cylinder, shift select the target, and then we go object and parent and just link the cylinder to the mesh. Okay. Then we can select the mesh, go to object properties, and here we have duplication. None is turned on. Frames you can forget because that's for animation. And here's vertices. We also have faces, so it's only put on the face. So let's click vertices, and there you see now at each vertex we have one cylinder. However, the cylinder is not looking to the right direction. So what can we do? What happens if we rotate this one? There it works. Perfect. But then I'm rotating in object mode. Maybe I can also go into edit mode, R9T, along with the y-axis. There. Rotate it. And there we are. Cool. So the beauty of this system is now the cylinder is linked to the mesh, and whatever vertex amount I have, I can position points. So let's go into edit mode, select everything, W, subdivide, and now I have more points. You can maybe scale these points, and you see then this way I move it. So this works very flexible, allows you quite rapidly to develop nice layouts. You can line them up so it looks like, for example, a circular array, but you can also select one and move it to somewhere else if you have to move around something. So pretty nice. So the first one actually has 6, so here we can't really work with this rectangle, so I will select everything in edit mode, delete it. My 3D cursor is still at the object center, Shift A, circle, and then I want 6, 1 centimeter, R, Y, and 90, and let me scale them together, and there we are. The mesh, for example, I can rotate. See, then I have this one. Okay, pretty nice. You see? So then the task would be, now we can make 2 more, for example, Shift D, maybe rotate this one out, rotate it by 45 degree, no, rotate it by, how much is this? Maybe 28. I try to get the rotation correct so that this is horizontal. And the reason why I did this, click, 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 subdivide, and on these points I can, for example, move out. And there you see there are uneven spaces in between, so you can't really perfectly line this up. So how many points do we have? 12? No, I could also say here, circle, this time now, oh, there it is, 12 points, RY 90. So now it's a perfect circle. I could rotate it there. Or I could also maybe say, what happens if maybe this one we select, Shift D, make it bigger, and we rotate it kind of like into this space. I can maybe put them into a way so they're more similarly spaced to each other. Then now we have 2 slots there, so select this one, Shift D, escape, scale it out, maybe bring this one to there. Okay, and let's select this one, Shift D, S, bring this out, but now there's too much space. Now, funny thing is, you know, we can bevel a point or fillet it, so we can select these points. Shift B, I think it was. No, Control B. No, Control Shift B. Yes, Control Shift B. Control Shift B. So there. Let's move this apart. Okay. And so on. So this whole object, now I could, for example, put in there and just imagine now how could this pattern maybe look like. And maybe now I will just select this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, Shift D, and for example extrude it, Shift D, extrude it, and there. Okay, I hope this roughly kind of like explains how this can work. Now let's say the second and then the last ring from the outside I want to have different sizes. So I can't really do this actually with one all using the same mesh, so I would have to do a variation. So what I will do is I will select all these points, P separate, select all those faces, for example P separate. Okay, and then I go into object mode, and maybe let's call this one array 3 millimeter. This is actually a 5. Okay, or we say like array center. Good. Not center, center. And maybe array mid. And we can call this one array end. So why did I do this? Well, Shift D, then we call this one cylinder end, Shift D, and we call this one cylinder center, for example. Okay. Now the center cylinder, do not be parented to array center. I want to overwrite this, so I unlink it first. So Control P, or you go Object, Parent, and then we say Clear Keep Transformation, and then select the center one. Control P, Object. Okay. And now we can go into Edit mode, and for example, adjust this one. We make this smaller. There. And then we have to select the end one. Can scale this even further. Also here, Alt P is a shortcut. Clear and keep transformation. Select this one. Control P. Link. And there. Now you see how, for example, it makes a progression. Now with the progression, we can see they're too far apart. So we can select these lines and scale them closer together. So we can make this distance and this distance even. Okay, so again, that's basically the way how then we can customize and build, for example, visual changes. So I have cleaned up my scene a little bit. Layer 2, everything for my top part. Layer 3, handle and button. and then layer 4, 5, and 6, the different parts. And I would like to show you now how we can select or take everything and use it to create the surface intersections with our main body. The problem currently is we can't really select this and cut it out of this one, because if we take a look at it, what we have is actually just lines, and along these lines interactively this mesh is being instant. So what I would have to do is I can work with this kind of like to explore maybe a pattern, but then I have to create tangible geometry. So I will do it with this one. So what I will do is Shift D, make a copy, escape, and move it to a different layer. And now I can select, for example, this line here, which includes this object which includes the lines along which we instance all these parts. Let's go and see where that function is. Object, apply, make duplicates real. Click this, and now there are all my objects. You see, pretty nice. So they're all positioned. Let's take a look at the mesh, and you know what's cool? They're all linked, so I can still adjust them all at once. So this is going to be a little bit click, click, click craziness, because I have so many rings I would like to add. So basically what I will do is maybe I select somewhere a master one. So let's say cylinder middle master. Okay. And then here I will, for example, add multiple unions. So union, 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 and there, and there. And the main reason why I do all this to here is I do not have to add then all those modifier commands to the design tree of my handle. And there. Okay, so the object is middle master. Let's go to here, and then there. Let's see, this should work. Boolean difference middle master cross fingers, and there it is. Nice. So and the same you can do with the others. I will quickly pause the video and then I will be back. So here we are. I closed to wrap actually this part up. So you see I cleaned up everything a little bit. So when I go to here, you see I removed all the lines and I moved the center part out. Same with here and here. And I structured everything so that these points are kind of like, oh, not points, cylinders intersecting each other. So I can see them, how they're in relationship. So let's say I still would like to adjust one. I could go into edit mode and, for example, play with this. And then you see the clones all update. Pretty nice. Okay, so let's take a look at our 3D object there. Okay, and let's turn this one on. This one works. Let's turn on this one. This works as well. But the problem is both do not really like to work. So the problem is, unfortunately, we seem to hit kind of like an unfortunate situation here with polygons. Maybe let's say view 2. How does this work? Loop, not very good. 4. Yeah, it's getting a little bit better, but then there are miscalculations. So threshold 5 microns. Okay, this is not good. 2 microns. I see. Now it doesn't really work great. 0.5. Look at that one. What about you? 0.05. Yeah. Works as well. Okay, good. So we have to maybe adjust kind of like the accuracy of these commands, but there's one body up here that got unfortunately ignored. So you see we're slightly hitting a technological issue here, which is unfortunate. But these cuttings here are kind of like more when we do this in Blender to get an idea, because in Fusion we would take the main body, shell it, so we give it a thickness, and then actually we would with the solid combine solid combine command cut all the cylinders out. So we can do kind of like this preview here, but we don't necessarily really have to use it, but we can use this as a kind of like a visually does it look good. If there's here and there an issue, not a big deal, because this is only for evaluation. In Fusion we really will build it. So let's talk about Fusion. How do we bring this geometry over? So I have here two n-gons, and that's going to be a problem in Fusion. So when we want to bring everything over to Fusion, we have to adjust the geometry a little bit. But fortunately, because these are all clones, I can just delete the face in one, and then here now I have all empty pipes. See, works pretty good. Okay, so can, for example, AA, select everything, go to File, Export, Wavefront. I just want to show you basically what's going on. Export, and here I will press nope, select everything there and fill this AA, Control N, and I will just export this one as bad. Okay, and let's go to Fusion. I will insert the bad one, comes over, we want to set it to meters. There, let's go to convert, select this one, click OK, and then it complains about, and that's the caps are n-gons. Fusion currently doesn't like this anymore. It worked in previous versions, unfortunately, so we simply have to work with those open shells. Meter, okay, and then if we convert those, there we have it. Okay, there's actually an opening here which I could cap by using the, where's the command, fill hole, and even I can say maintain crease, and I could say, let's say, fill star. So it's kind of like an n-gon, and maybe here this one as well. There, it's all filled. Finish form, and there you see we have a cylinder. Ta-da! Okay, so if we go back to here, select all those and shift select all those and say fill hole. Takes a moment to calculate. Yeah, okay, and finish. Takes a moment as well. And then we have basically exactly the cylinders transferred from sub-D polygon to kind of like sub-D T-spline to perfectly NURBS solid objects, which you see they're all solid. We can then use to cut out of the shell. So let's go back to Blender, because I would say we pretty much kind of like have explored everything that's relevant for rebuilding this part. So then now in the next video I can show you how we can bring all these objects over, and then kind of like the same way how we built this in Blender, we can then actually recreate the geometry but create a more accurate CAD model on based on our Blender model.